Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the In the Saddle podcast. My name is Chris Loader, and I am joined by Izzy Phillips, Liz Bachelor, and Katie Midwinter as we preview this weekend's racing. We've got plenty to get our teeth stuck into. We've got some decent action at Newmarket with the Cesarewitch meeting. We'll look at a couple of races at York as well, and we'll do our Any Other Business section at the end, where we'll be focusing on a couple of the races at Chepstow. But before we get into things, a couple of big stories from the racing world today. The main one is that the Grand National is going to be having a few changes to 2024. We're going to be getting a smaller field, going from 40 runners to now 34. They're going to be moving the first fence slightly nearer to the start. We've only got a stand-in start. Just some of the changes that they're going to be making for next year's Grand National. Girls, the floor's yours. What do you think about some of these changes?
I think with the Grand National, I know it's become, obviously, the Grand National is one of the massive spectacles of our sport. I think moving the fences and things, I can see the benefit. Obviously, the last couple of years, they've made them smaller and they've made, changes to the materials used in them and all sorts of different things that from a safety element, no one's going to oppose. No one in their right mind is going to oppose a safer race for a horse. But I think it does get to a point whereby how many changes are we going to make before the race becomes unrecognisable as the spectacle that we know it? I know I was mentioning earlier, the smaller you make the fences and the smaller you make the field, the faster they're likely to go. And it's that speed in which they can hit some of the fences is likely the thing that would cause more fatalities. I know it felt a very fast run race this year, this year just gone. And most of us said, it felt a little bit of a difficult watch, but it's just the principle of not allowing people who really have no real interest in our sport and no understanding of our sport to make those decisions and make those changes. I think as long as it's coming from a good place, then it's fine, but a little bit disappointed to see that they've reduced the field quite that much.
I would probably agree. And as we were saying earlier, I tweeted it at the time, I did not enjoy watching the Grand National this year. But then when tensions were high, the race went off late. Did they go quick to try and get it out of the way? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. But I think the BHA, although they've come up with these, well, not even proposals, the new rules, I still think racing as a whole has got more issues to worry about than the Grand National.
Now, I can see where you're coming from. I think if maybe Animal Rising hadn't had their press coverage in the build up to it, and then gone on to protest at the track, we might not have necessarily seen these changes. So it does suggest that maybe for them they have maybe won a few points in the argument with the public. Katie, do you think that Animal Rising have maybe helped stir the pot up a little bit and have forced some of these changes?
They probably have, because they were on all the mainstream news channels and they got a lot of media time, really. So yeah, they probably have had an effect on it, and I'd say they had an effect on the race this year as well. I agree with the girls that it wasn't a nice watch at all. I'm a big racing fan, as we all are, but I didn't enjoy watching that. And I did worry for the safety of many of the horses and the jockeys as well. But I think a big factor in that was the fact that there were so many loose horses running around and they didn't really have a safe place to go. But I know they're going to make some alterations to the alignment of the running rail on the inside of the course, and hopefully that will help capture the loose horses quicker and make it safer for them, and then they won't be able to get across the horses that are actually still participating in the race. And I think that will make a big difference. And as well as the first fence being moved closer to the start, I've been listening to what a few jockeys have had to say as well, and I think most of them are in complete agreement with that, and they do think that it's going to just maybe slow that rush down, that rush towards the first fence, all that adrenaline and wanting to get on with things. It's such a huge race that there's going to be a lot of pressure on the jockeys, on the horses as well. And I think maybe just releasing that pressure a little bit, trying to make things calmer at the start with a standing start, and then a shorter run up to the first fence, so that they have to take their time and get into a good position so they can see the fence. I think things like that are massive positives. So just echoing what the girls have said as well, the maximum number of runners that's been cut to 34, I don't think that's going to help much. And it's a shame, because I think what's going to happen is there's going to be another fatality sometime, probably. And then are they going to want to reduce it even more and even more and even more? And in the end, it's not going to be that unique race that is such a challenge. So it's a shame that they're reducing the number of runners, but I think there are some positives to take from it.
Yeah, I think we kind of got a flavour of what's been going on there. I've heard a lot of good points about some of the changes, but also as well can see some of the negatives. Like when you get the old saying, when you take an inch, they get a mile. We're kind of then opening it up to that possibility. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the race unfolds next year. And the other big news today in the racing world was Frankie Dettori. I know we're planning a little social to Champions Day at Ascot next weekend. So if you see us, feel free to give us a shout. That was meant to be Frankie's last ride in the UK, with his announcement that he's going to continue riding for the foreseeable future. He said he's only going to be riding in America, but I'm sure he's bound to turn up. Girls, what do we think on this one? Is it a good thing that Frankie's going to continue to ride, and was it that big of a surprise?
It's just not a surprise, is it? I think it's definitely not a surprise to me. Might be to other people, but I don't know. It's just turned into a bit of a circus, this whole farewell tour that was going on. People have paid money. Racecourses have paid him to turn up to racecourses, apart from Listerwell, so well done to them. But I just think, yeah, maybe they should ask for their money back. But he is going to America. I'm sure he'll creep back into some of the bigger races over in Europe in time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a whole charade for me.
Still been riding at the top level, really. He's made some mistakes, like we won't mention Stradivarius and bring up bad memories, but he's still riding at the top level. He's riding for the best trainers, he's riding some of the best horses, and I think a lot of people have been talking about, well, why is he even retiring now? Because he's still more than capable of doing a good job and winning big races. But I think the fact that he's going over to America, I would not be at all surprised to see him at Royal Ascot next year riding for Wesley Ward. I think that it could well happen. So as Liz was saying, surely he's not going to pass an opportunity to win another ARC or another race at Royal Ascot if he gets the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, he has been absolutely riding on a cloud, hasn't he, at the moment? He's just been so good this season, and I know it's partly because obviously I think trainers obviously have looked to give him better rides for his final ride in this race and his final ride in that race, and you know, they have obviously supported this kind of grand farewell tour that we've got going on. But I couldn't agree with Katie more. I mean, where does he draw the line? It comes across that he's addicted to the rush, you know. There's been many occasions where he's been on the TV on these Saturdays, on these big Group 1 winners that he's had, and he's made these comments like, one more year, or I'll be back at Cheltenham, or, you know, and I don't actually think he's joking. Obviously, look, he's now going to America, and a jockey of his quality should be winning a lot of races out there if he gets the rides. And why would you want to see your career out riding mediocre rides out in America? Like you say, Katie, if he gets another shot at an ARC or a big Royal Ascot race, of course he's going to go for it.
Yeah, he most certainly is. I was kind of hoping to see him on I'm a Celeb this year, I'm not going to lie, when he announced his retirement. But
yeah, so was I. Him and Boris Johnson.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait another probably couple of years for that. But yeah, hopefully he does appear on that show one day, because it'll definitely be a good crack. Anyway, enough of the racing news today. You want to know what we fancy this weekend. So let's get stuck into the racing. The first race we're going to preview is the 125 at Newmarket. It's the Emirates Autumn Stakes. It's a Group 3 over a mile, and Ancient Wisdom is your favourite 2-1. We've then got Chief Little Rock at 9-2, Arabic Legend at 5-1, Orn at 15-2, Per Contra at 10s. Bigger are the rest. Izzy, I'll come to you here first. Ancient Wisdom is your favourite. Charlie Appleby probably hasn't had his best year, it's fair to say, at least in the big races anyway. So he's going to be relying on some of these 2-year-olds to carry the flag for him next year. Do we think Ancient Wisdom could be one of those?
Yeah, certainly hasn't had the best year, but I don't think that Ancient Wisdom is old reliable here. I quite like Chief Little Rock. I think looking at the form, he's proven over a mile. There's been lots of rain today, all day, and there was also forecast rain all day tomorrow in Newmarket. So I think that soft ground should suit as well, and I'm just trying to keep an eye on that. So I think that swayed it for me on Chief Little Rock.
Okay, Chief Little Rock it is for Izzy. Katie, are you going to make it another Aidan O'Brien selection here?
I think Chief Little Rock has got a good form in the book. That form behind Deep One at the Curragh, a win before that at Leopardstown. But the one I was actually quite keen on was Ancient Wisdom, because I think he's got the best form in the race. He cost €2 million as a yearling, made an expected start to his racing career with back-to-back wins before finishing third behind Rosalian and Al Musmak, finishing ahead of a Group 3 winner, listed winner, in that race. I think it's a really good form line, and I'd say he's the one to beat here.
Okay, so Ancient Wisdom it is for Katie. How about you, Liz?
So I was just going to say that I found myself tussling between Ancient Wisdom and Chief Little Rock, so there's nothing really that I can really add to what the girls have already said. But I would push towards more Big Little Rock, I think. And I think, his second in the Group 2 at Curragh, on maybe good ground, and like Izzy's talking about the weather with the rain that's coming, maybe, but I think Chief Little Rock over Ancient Wisdom. But €2 million as a yearling for Ancient Wisdom, they obviously thought a lot of him when they bought him.
Yeah, they most certainly did. They have been splashing around Godolphin at the sales, but it seems like we've got a bit of Aidan O'Brien loving here in the opener at Newmarket. I personally wanted to take on the front two. I thought Arabic Legend was interesting for Andrew Bolden and Sean Nevy. Won on debut at Newmarket on the July course, and then went to Salisbury last time out in the Stonehenge Stakes. Didn't run too badly, I thought, there, and just bumped into Arabian Crown, who I think is going to be a real flag bearer for the Charlie Appleby stable next year. He was actually sent off 13-8 favourite for that race at Arabic Legend. A lot of big things were expected on the day, but I just wonder if he found the ground maybe a little bit quick, and this softer ground being by Dubawi, I just think that might suit. The yard have been going okay. I just thought 5-1. I thought that was maybe a little bit of value, and I don't think he has too much to find on the front two. So for me, I'm going to give a chance to Arabic Legend. We're now going to move on to the 2 o'clock for the Native Trails Dewhurst Stakes. It's a Group 1 over 7 furlongs, one of the classiest 2-year-old races we see of the season, and the favourite is City of Troy at 1-2. We've then got Iberian at 4-1, Alanabi at 9s, Indian Run at 20s, Array at 22s, even Shaddad at 33s. Bigger are the rest. Katie, I'll come to you here first, being Aidan O'Brien's number one fan. City of Troy, we're excited to see him. Do we think he's going to get the job done?
Yeah, I do think he'll get the job done. I think he's the best of a pretty exceptional crop of juveniles at Ballydall this season. And we've been really keen to see him back out. He didn't run at the Irish Champions Festival. He was a non-runner there, but I think coming here, he has to have the best form in the race, and he's looked pretty special. So hopefully we see a special performance from him. I probably won't be having a bet on him at the prices, but I will be cheering him on. I think if I was going to have a bet in the race, one of my old favourites this season, Hartum, 66-1. There's quite tempting about him, just maybe to fill in one of those places. And also Array, who's been supplemented for the race, 22-1. I think is a big price each way there. So maybe one of those two. I might have a saver on them each way, but I do expect City of Troy to put in an emphatic performance, and I don't think soft ground will inconvenience him too much. I think Aidan O'Brien has said it's not going to be his ideal, but I think he's good enough to be effective on it. So, yeah, hopefully we see a really good performance.
Okay, how about you, Liz? Who did you like in the Dewhurst Stakes?
Oh, sorry. Let me start that again. Well, the last time I was on here, I made a case for Iberian and then opted to go for Rosalien, who finished third at the time. But Charlie Hills loves Iberian, always speaks really highly of him, and they believe that he is their Guinea's Hope next season. He did win really well. He won the Group 2 Champagne Stakes at Doncaster last month really well, winning by 2 lengths. Obviously, Rosalien was seen winning the Group 1 Grand Criterium at Longchamp last weekend by a length. And it was on soft ground too, the time that he won that Group 2 Champagne Stakes, even though they think he'll do better on a slightly firmer surface. And that could be the issue that we face here. But the rain is coming, so let's see what happens there. There's only one horse that has won on heavy, and that is Array. And as Katie said, he has been supplemented, so he could go well at a bigger price. City of Troy does keep winning impressively, but has he actually beaten anything to warrant him being such a short price? I'm not so sure. So I'm actually going for Iberian in this. I won't change my mind on him this time.
Okay, sticking loyal this time with Iberian. That means he's not going to win. You heard it there from Liz. So that's her thoughts then on the Dewhurst. How about you, Izzy? You get the final say here?
I'm sticking with Katie and City of Troy. I completely agree with everything Liz has said, though, about Iberian. And obviously you've got the fact that then Rosalien, who then went to Paris Longchamp and beat the course record in his Group 1 next time out. So he really did go off and frank that form as well. So it's understandable why they think so much of Iberian. I can't write him out here, but I do just have a real soft spot for City of Troy. I do just think he's very special.
Okay, strong votes then for City of Troy, and Liz is going for Iberian. Again, I like none of the first two here. I think City of Troy is way too short. I'm not sure about that July Stakes form. Iberian, I think he might have just handled the conditions better, and I thought it was a bit of a strange race. We have seen Rosalien go on to win in France, boosting that form, but the one I like, who does have form tied in with Rosalien, is Alan Narby, if I've pronounced that correctly. This horse, go back and watch the replay last time out when he won the Group 3 Tattersall Stakes. He doesn't look like he's going to win, but in the last 100 yards, he shows an electric turn of foot. It looked like that kind of change of gear. That looked Group 1 class to me, and I honestly think he could be an exciting horse next season. Maybe the ground could be a little bit of a concern, but I would be willing to give him a try. The time before that, he finished 4th in a listed race at Ascot behind Rosalien, but he was a bit unlucky that day. He didn't get a clear run, but the horse that he beat in that race, 2 horses he beat in that race, Dancing Gemini hacked up at Doncaster in a listed race for Roger Till, and then Sunway as well actually beat Rosalien. So the form there is maybe a little bit intermittent, but Alan Narby was definitely a big eye catcher in that race. He's riding for Owen Burrows here, who does really well with the ammunition he gets from Shadwell. I just thought this horse will probably be doing his best work at the end. Maybe a horse might get first run on him, but I wouldn't discount him, at least making the frame. You know, we've got the 8 runners, so if they all stand their ground, I think he's a cracking each way bet, and I think he could run a big race there, and I think he's quite an exciting horse moving forward. So for me, I really like the chances of Alan Narby to run a nice race in the Dewhurst. So we move on to the 240 now, where we go to the feature race of the 2-day Newmarket Cesarewitch meeting. It is, of course, a Club Godolphin Cesarewitch handicap 34 runners, a few old friends in here. Pied Piper is your favourite, well-backed favourite at 9-2. We've then got Grand Providence at 10s along with Vino Victrix, the Shunter at 11s, Jesse Evans at 14s, Not So Sleepy 16s, Temporize 16s, Goshen 20s, and many more the field. Izzy, you can have first say here. Pied Piper, 9-2. It's got Ryan Moore booked. Do we think he's the one they've got to beat?
Well, there's a few old favourites in here, isn't there? I really like the Cesarewitch. I think it's such an excellent race. I've had a look at a few. I'm undecided yet on one firm selection, I have to be honest. I massively respect the form of Pied Piper. You know, I think he's marvellous, a worthy favourite because he obviously should do really well here. I do like Tritonic, who's in the field as well. I think he could have an each-way chance, although his more recent form looks as though he doesn't really want the ground to be too soft these days. So the only concern is that there is forecast heavy rain all day tomorrow, and it has been raining all day today. And there is also two good recent wins, not to get trapped into the realm of recency, but two good recent wins for Tashkhan and Not So Sleepy as well that I feel like I can't ignore. So I've kind of got it down to a short list of 4 at the minute. Pied Piper, Tritonic, Tashkhan and Not So Sleepy.
Okay.
So we'll see where we go from there.
Okay, yeah, you're going to need a short list. Liz, I know from speaking to you earlier, you had, I think it was 34 runners on your short list.
Yeah.
Is it still like that? Is it still like that?
Well, this is a race where well over half of them are genuine hurdlers. The past 5 years has seen a typical National Hunt trainer win. Willie Mullins winning 3 of the past 5. My favourite winner of this race was 2 years ago with Dickie Henderson's Buzz, and he maybe surprisingly doesn't have a runner in it this year. And this race is always a minefield, and good luck to anyone trying to find the winner. But I do like Pied Piper. He is a 2-time Grade 2 winning hurdler, 3rd in the Triumph at Cheltenham a few years ago, and he started off life as a flat horse with John Gosden. He's come in fit into this. He last ran in August. Ryan Moore's booked, which is clearly a positive. As Izzy said, Not So Sleepy could make all again, especially in the soft ground like he did at Newbury last month. And Goshen is in this, the most unpredictable racehorse of all time, I think. Makes an appearance after last being seen at Sandown, coming second behind Nappers Hill in a Grade 2 hurdle. His chasing career clearly not for him. As Izzy said again, Tritonic could be suited up by the step up in trip from his last race over 1 mile 6. But I think Wordsworth is an interesting contender for David Pipe at 20-1. Once with Aidan O'Brien, who was actually a pretty decent flat horse. He's now hurdling, winning his last race easily, although he is lumbered with top weight, but he does have a £5 claimer on board. But yeah, as you can hear, I can talk about most of these. Good each way value to be had out of a race like this. And there's probably one for Katie too in the land of winter at 100-1.
Yeah, well, maybe there could be that. Katie, who's your number 1 pick in the Cesarewitch? Have you narrowed it down?
Oh, do you know, Liz, I've backed Land of Winter plenty of times, so I probably have to have a bit of a save on him. He's by one of my favourite sires, Camelot, as well, so probably have a pound on him at 100-1. But look, I'm a big fan of Pied Piper. He's one of my favourite National Hunt horses. I think I've been backing him in most of his races, even when he's been beaten by Stateman. I've been putting him up each way, and I thought it was going to be his day at Cheltenham in the county hurdle. He was just beaten by Favre on that occasion, but I'd love to see him get his day in the sun. And he's a flatbred horse. He has all the class to go and win this. I think off a mark of 96, he's got a brilliant chance. So fingers crossed he can get the job done. But I have had a look at a few at bigger prices as well. Again, there's so many that we could mention. Wordsworth being ex-Aidan O'Brien trained. I did quite like his performance at Bangor the other week, but he was a good flat horse, and I think he'd probably have a decent chance. It's just that weight burden, if it's going to be too big of a problem for him. That would be my worry. But the two that I do like at bigger prices, the first was Typewriter for Andrew Balding. Callum Hutchison claims £3 aboard this filly. I think she's a progressive type. She's a nice stayer, and she finished half a length behind Run for Oscar, who was last year's winner. When the pair met in the Queen Alexandra Stakes at Ascot, she finished a couple of lengths ahead of the Irish Cesarewitch runner-up Falcon 8 on that occasion as well. I think it's a good form line. If you look through her form this season, she's been beaten length and a quarter by Scampi. She's finished well in the good staying races. I think there's a bit more to come from her daughter of Glen Eagles. Lots to like about her, and she's a nice price at 33-1. And the other one that I did like as well is Ocean Wind for Roger Teal. Sean Levy in the saddle, a jockey that I really like. 50-1 best price available for him. Now, a couple of years ago, he was finishing second to Stradivarius in the Sagaro Stakes. And if he can return to anything near that form, I think he's got a decent chance off 102. He's officially rated 100, so running off 102 here is not really ideal, but he's a winner over course and distance. He was off for 771 days before finishing third, first-time blinkers at Sandown in a listed race behind Yabir in July. Disappointing since, but his mark has been coming down, so maybe he could be one to outrun his odds as well. So Pied Piper, I'm hoping will go and win, but Ocean Wind and Typewriter maybe to fill the places.
Okay, a couple there to watch out for from Katie. I'm actually keeping it simple here. I like one, and that is the Shunter for James Doyle and Emmett Mullins. Now this horse, I think this has been the plan ever since they put him away for the summer. He had a pipe opener a couple of months ago at Gorham Park where he was running over a trip too short, over a mile and a half. He's actually running in this race off a mark of 94, which I think is fairly workable. If you go back through some of his form, we obviously know he's been a good horse for Connections over the years, a Cheltenham Festival winner, Moor Battle Hurdle winner, and then last year he was actually sent off 4-1 favourite for the November handicap at Nace. He was just running on from too far back that day, and he didn't get going until quite late. I think over this kind of trip with a couple of extra furlongs over 2 mile 2, that's going to really play to his strengths. We know he stays well. We know he can handle the ground, and more importantly, he's not got a bad draw as well in stall 3. You ideally, looking through some of the trends, want to be drawn low. Being drawn wide is a real hard task to put it off from in the car park. I did like Wordsworth before I saw his draw, and that's kind of put me off. I like the way how he won over hurdles last time out, and we know he would stay. But I think, I've been looking at those today in the middle, going low, and the one that just jumped off the page at me was the Shunter. Like I say, I think he's off a workable mark. It looks like it's been the plan. He handles conditions. We know he stays. And James Doyle as well is a really good jockey booking. So I think the Shunter, come the day, it'd be interesting to see how the market reacts. But I think he's got potential to go off nearly favourite. I think if we see the old JP McManus gamble, he could be find it out to be co-favourite with Pied Piper. So if you still can get the 11-1, I don't think that is a bad price. So that's my thoughts on the Cesarewitch. We're now going to look at one more race at Newmarket. It's a 3:15. It's the Guy Zetland Stakes, a Group 3, and Arabian Crown is your favourite at 6-5. We then got Gaspar de Lamos at 7-2, Dan Buster at 5-1, Marabella at 13-2, and Dallas Star, the outsider, at 18-1. Liz, you can have first say here. Arabian Crown, he's coming here for the hat trick, 6-5. Do we think that's a little bit short?
Not sure. There's obviously only 5 in it. I don't have a particular fancy as such. Charlie Appleby has won this the past 2 years in a row, and he obviously had chances Arabian Crown for it. He was last seen winning a listed race in August at Salisbury, and that path of winning the race at Salisbury and then the Zetland was also taken by Charlie's flying honours last year. Sun finished third in that race at Salisbury, and he's just come a not too distant fifth in the Royal Lodge Stakes. And I did also take a look at See the Stars filly Marabella, who won her Class 4 novice in some nice style, pulling away at the end. She was then entered into the Group 2 May Hill Stakes, but was taken out due to the go-in. Rafe Beckett doing well with 2-year-olds. I think she might spring a surprise, but like I say, no real big fancy.
Okay, that's Liz's thoughts then on the 3:15. How about you, Katie?
Yeah, I can't say that I've got a strong fancy in this one either. I think Arabian Crown is probably the deserving favourite, bidding for that hat-trick of wins. I'd say he's got the best form in the race, but just a race to watch for me.
Okay, just a race to watch. And how about you, Izzy?
Well, I personally did quite like the look of Dambuster, just particularly for that. They beat GoDaddy last time, who's then been a winner next time out. He's got form on Good to Soft, obviously, potential rain. So, yeah, I'm quite impressed with him. I think he could have a good chance for Andrew Baldwin. So I'll probably go with Dambuster for that one.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength there. I quite liked Dambuster. I thought it was quite impressive the way how he got up on top in the final closing stages at Sandown. As you say, the form was boosted yesterday.
Yeah, it was quite close, wasn't it? Only a head.
Yeah, the form was boosted yesterday, and it wasn't a bad little nursery that horse GoDaddy won. So I do think that wasn't a bad effort at all. Also, as well, the pedigree's nice as well. Remember Uncle Bryn? That horse is in it, and we've got Boomer as well, who was a good horse for Tom Dascombe. So there's some nice horses in this pedigree, and I think Dambuster, 5-1. I think he's definitely open to more improvement, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Maybe not good enough to win, but I think he could definitely go close. So that was my thoughts on the Zetland Stakes. Okay, so we're now going to move on to York for the 1:15, which is the Coral Rockingham Stakes, over 6 furlongs for the juveniles. Pure Sangue, if I've pronounced that right, is 7-2 favourite. We've then got Star Law at 5-1, Esquire 15-2 along with series ranks, Sketch 8-1, Bondi 12s, bigger are the rest. Katie, you can have first say here. Pure Sangue, been knocking on the door 3 seconds in a row. Do we think he's a bit vulnerable here?
I think he's got the best form in the race. The second to Big Evs, second to Inquisitively, second to Beautiful Diamond. I think he's due a win, due a bit of black type as well. He's running well in these races, but just narrowly beaten really by Big Evs. I think that's probably a good form line. He'd probably be the one that they all have to beat here. Looking at the form, I think 7-2 is quite a generous price for him, but I wouldn't be too keen to have a bet in this race myself. But I'd say, looking at the card, Pure Sang looks the one to beat, and that 7-2 looks a decent price maybe. Starlaw has come in with a bit of a reputation this season, but hasn't quite gone to plan for him yet. Won on debut, beat Maximum Dividend, but was only fourth then in the Solario Stakes at Sandown. I'm not sure how good that form is going to turn out to be. Like, he's entitled to improve for that, but I'm not sure I'd be siding with him now unless he can really improve massively from that performance. So I'd probably just side with Pure Sang here.
Okay, Pure Sang it is for Katie. How about you, Izzy? Who did you like in the Rockingham?
I'm similar in the sense that I didn't have a huge fancy in this race, to be completely honest with you. But I was just interested to see that Star Law is down in trip to 6 furlongs. So maybe that might unlock some kind of that potential that we feel like we almost haven't quite seen yet. So I'll just be keeping an eye on Star Law, but no bet for me.
Okay, Star Law, one to watch for Izzy. And how about you, Liz?
Yeah, Pure Song for me as well, however we want to pronounce it. We need some kind of horse race name pronouncer to come. But I just think his form, and he's just knocking on the door, and he's just so unlucky each and every time almost. And I just think he deserves to get his head in front. His stepping up to 6 furlongs could be the ticket, the way he runs his races, and that he'd benefit from a bit of rain as well. Pure Song for me.
Okay, Purist song. I did try to go back and watch the commentary of some of his races earlier, and I thought I remembered it, but clearly didn't. I mean, when in doubt, if you're always struggling on the name, go to the commentator. But even then, I've heard it from commentators that they get petrified when it's a bit of a dodgy name, and they go around asking for help. But sometimes they don't always get it, and they have to kind of go with what they think it is. So. Yeah, maybe they were guessing that day, but Pure Sang could be the name of the horse. That is the favourite anyway. If you want to know who we're talking about, but the one I did like in here actually, going away from the favourite, was Bondi for Brian Smart, who's going quite well at the moment. Small stable, but does well with his sprinters. 2 from 7 in the last fortnight. But this horse Bondi, owned by Bond Thoroughbred Limited, the owner always targets winners at York. They've had quite a few horses over the last few years turn up. They've had some near misses. I think Bond Chairman was a horse that they had high hopes for, but just didn't quite go on. But Bondi could be a useful horse for them. He finished 4th on his debut, funnily enough, at York, behind the Coffee Pod, who's a fairly good horse. And then he went on to break his maiden tag next time out when winning at Pontefract. And he seemed to come on a lot for that run. He was a bit slow on his debut, but this time he broke more alertly and got the job done really well. The 3rd place horse in that race, Golden Strike, went on to win on their next start. So Bondi, yeah, he could be open to more improvement. There was a bit of cut in the ground the last time out at Pontefract as well. So if there is rain around, which the forecast does suggest, he might be able to handle it. Obviously, he's got a bit to find with some of these at the top of the market. But as I said, with connections liking to target this race course, the yard going well, looks like he's improved. The form's not too bad. 12 to 1, that might be a bit of a big price. So I'm going to take a chance with Bondi. We then move on to the last race we're going to look at York. It's a 225. It's the Coral Sprint Trophy Handicap, and significantly is your favourite at 11 to 2. We've then got Albashire at 13 to 2, Apollo 1 at 10s along with Wob Wob Wob, Montasib 12s along with Pendleton, Summer Gandol favourite 14s, Ali Stancer 16s along with Bielsa, Laugh a Minute and Mr. Wagyu, and bigger are the rest. Liz, you can have first say here. Significantly, was a good winner last time out of the Air Gold Cup. Do we think he's got a good chance to follow up again?
Potentially, although it's 22 runners, same usual culprits that we see kind of every other weekend over the 6 furlongs. And Apollo 1 does well in these big fields. His last 6 races read 1, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3. So I think he could be a good each way value. He'll run on good to firm and will run on heavy. Draw of 22 could be a slight disadvantage. And I never really know what happened to King's Lynn. He's on his lowest mark of 99 since May 2021. His last win coming in a Group 2 in May 2022. He used to ride in the King's colours, now owned by trainer Andrew Boulding himself. So it'd be interesting to see what he does. And then Irish Raider, and my namesake, Laugh a Minute, who came 8th in this last year, comes back to give it another go after his win over 5 furlongs at Curragh a few weeks ago. But just like the Cesarewitch, lots of horses, lots of chances, always good races to watch.
Yeah, plenty of angles in here. Izzy, do you have an angle in for us?
Well, I feel like this race, really, they're all horses that we've all kind of followed all season. Like Liz was saying, your usual culprits coming back again. You mentioned, Chris, that he's an old favourite, and absolutely he is. I do like Summer Gand. He's got decent form at York, so I wouldn't mind taking him on. But there's one more that I feel like I'm just going to give them one last chance. Well, it won't be one last chance. It's just one extra jump off the cliff. I'm going to go for Aberama Gold. I think it's quite a big price. But yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna give a few of my old favourites one final punt for the season.
Yeah, I think this is a race full of cliff horses, some old favourites as well. I'll give my selection in a minute. Katie, I know one of your all-time cliff horses is in here, and you were saying before the off you were backing a horse at 50, he's gone out to 66-1. Is it the one that I'm thinking of here?
Yeah, it's Rousing Encore, who probably hasn't got much of a chance looking at the prices now. As soon as I put a bet on at 50s, he drifted to 66, so not really the best sign. But 66, that's more value on the day. So who knows? Maybe he will finally return to some form. But I really liked him as a juvenile, and so I've been sticking with him this season to no avail yet. But he has had wind surgery, so this is first run after that operation. I prefer to back them on their second run after wind up, but I'll make an exception here and really hope that it's going to bring some improvement from him, because he was such a good juvenile. He finished second in the Mill Reef Stakes to secure. He went to Nace and he finished just behind Victoria Road there, Ocean Crest, Matilda Picot. They're all really good horses. They seem to have trained on. Rousing Encore this season, unfortunately, he just hasn't done much at all. But that run at Ascot in May, second run of the season in the Commonwealth Cup Trial Stakes in the Group 3 there, it's given me a glimmer of hope that there could be still some ability, because he finished 5th out of 9 in that race. But all of the horses in the race, apart from Desert Cop, they're all rated in the hundreds. And he finished ahead of Magical Sunset, who went on to win a Group 3 at Goodwood. She's now rated 107. So my thought process is, off a mark of 90, if that wind operation brings any improvement out of him, if he's had some issues and maybe they've sorted them out now, he's got a draw from 19. I just really think he could maybe outrun those massive odds of 66-1. And it is a big leap of faith, but sometimes you just have to keep the faith in these horses, and hopefully that faith will be rewarded. So that's what I'm hoping for here.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe Saturday could be his day to finally get his head back in the winners' enclosure, or maybe at least run a nice race and maybe fill the frame. But yeah, if you want to back him, 66-1 couldn't put you off at that kind of price.
Or maybe wait a little bit and he'll be out to 80s and then to 100 probably.
Yeah, and then you can back him with Bet365 in the extra place market with like 10 places for like 33-1. So yeah, maybe that's a way to get him. But yeah, Rousing Encore, one last throw of the dice for Katie. I like a couple in here. Again, another cliff horse, Escobar. I put him up last weekend at Ascot. He was actually only beaten 3 1/4 lengths. He didn't run necessarily that badly. He's down £2 here off a mark of 92. He's bound to be doing his best work late on. So he's one that I'm going to have to maybe keep the faith with one more time. And the other horse was Bielsa, who was a course and distance winner back at the Dante meeting in May. He's now £3 higher, but he wasn't disgraced in the Air Gold Cup last time. He was only beaten 2 3/4 lengths behind significantly. Obviously, as Izzy said, they've all met each other, most of these, earlier in the season and kind of reverse form now and again. He finished third the time before that in the Stewards Cup. He's around about 16-1 chance. Shane Gray takes the ride. Last time he rode him, he actually finished second on him at Redcar. So that's not an issue there. Pandal's a bit of cut in the ground. I think Bielsa could definitely run a big race as well. So yeah, there are a couple in the field that I thought definitely could outrun their odds. So yeah, that is the final race from ITV that we're going to be previewing this weekend. So it's now our Any Other Business section. And I know that we've got a big meeting on Saturday at Chepstow. The Jumps is taking another step forward. It's starting to come into view now, and I know that quite a few of us are really looking forward to seeing the action there over the next couple of days. But Izzy, you can go first. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about this weekend?
Just a couple that I'm going to be keeping an eye on / maybe having a bet on at Chepstow. So I quite like the look of Napper's Hill in the 3:10 at Chepstow on Saturday. Always like to see when Nichols brings the big guns back out. Hoping for some good things from Napper's Hill this season. And an old favourite of mine in the 3:40, I'll be backing Al Dancer. I actually think he's got quite a good chance in that one. So yeah, there's 2 for me.
Yeah, Izzy's favourites, they're coming out, so yeah, you better look out for them if you've been listening
Tristan Davis, guys.
He's actually been in great form, to be fair.
He has. I've been following.
He's had about 12 winners or something I saw in the last fortnight.
Yeah, the other day he had 4 winners.
Yeah.
4 winners on the card and 2, I think, a double for his dad.
Yeah, well, if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you'll know that Izzy's a huge Nigel Tristan Davis fan, and you also know as well that some of our other favourites, Molly's Ollie's Wishes, is also running at the weekend. So, no doubt, Izzy.
Yeah, how did I forget Molly Ollie's? How did I forget to mention Molly Ollie's? Wow, I just truly disgraced myself there.
That's all right. Well, we were talking about it before we came on air that you forgot her, but I've mentioned her for you there. So yeah, maybe another one to keep an eye on.
It was more of a scrolling issue, guys, because you had to really scroll to find her in that field.
Yeah.
Did you say she was 33s?
Yeah, 33 to 1.
1 on Sky Bet.
Yeah, she was earlier on when we came on air.
That's just ridiculous. What a ridiculous price. I know our last 2 runs weren't great, but that is just wild. So
That's
definitely having a go.
25 generally.
Okay.
Get to Sky Bet, guys.
One to watch there from Izzy's closet. And how about you, Liz? Who did you like away from the races we've just been talking about?
So yes, at Chepstow, 1 for tomorrow on Friday in the 1:35. I do like it. It's a veterans chase, and Iright is there. I think he's on a good mark, good jumper, goes well fresh. And then on Saturday in the 2:30, Peter Bowen's Cortland. He's been running over the summer and he's almost come alive. He's won 4 of the past 5, and it was only a 3/4 of a length defeat in the Summer Plate, finishing second, his only defeat of those 5. He's jumped from a rating of 109 to 144, but he's still been finding more on every increase, and I think he'll be there to give it a go. But also in that same race, Nicky Henderson and Nico de Boinville just saddle 1 for the whole meeting. They've just got 1 runner all day, and that's Emir Sakri, pretty lightly raced in his career, has won at Chepstow. But I always have a bit of a think when they've come just for 1. And I think Gordon Elliott and Jack Kennedy have a good chance at a double in the 4:15 with Tronador and the 4:50 with New Year honours as well. So that's Chepstow covered.
Okay, a couple to watch then from Liz. And how about you, Katie?
Well, on Saturday in the 2:30 Native River handicap chase, I think I'm going to be stealing one of yours here, Chris, because I think you backed this horse in the Ultima. T-Clipper, he always seems to go well fresh. He was a next second in the race last year when he was rated £4 higher. He's £9 lower than when he was 6th in the Ultima, finished ahead of 3 under through 5 there when in receipt of £3, and there's £9 between them here in favour of T-Clipper. So I think he's got an excellent chance as long as the ground doesn't turn too testing. I don't think that will suit him, but I think he'll still be a decent each way bet. And then a few tomorrow at Newmarket to keep an eye on. I thought Sweetest was a huge price in the 150 at 40 to 1 there for Aidan O'Brien. Frankie Dettori on board. I just think on looking at her form, she's well overpriced at 40 to 1. So I think she could possibly outrun those odds. It is a competitive race, so maybe she won't be quite good enough to make the frame on this occasion, but I do think she'd be massively overlooked. I'm also sticking with Lang Lang in the 4:10, but I'm looking forward to seeing her next season, so I'm hoping that she'll run well enough to justify my bet on her in the 1,000 guineas at 50 to 1. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for her. And then in the last tomorrow, Silver Lady is one I've been keeping an eye on at Newmarket. She finished 6th in the Rosemary Stakes behind Coppice, but she stayed on really well, and I was keen to see her up in trip. She's over 1.25 miles here, and I think she'll go really well. I was hoping she'd be a bit more of a price than she is, but they clearly think she's going to go well too, so that gives me a bit more confidence in her. So around 7 to 2 for Silver Lady.
Okay, a few then to watch out from Katie this weekend. I just got one that caught my eye in the Silver Trophy at Chepstow, the 4:15. Well, there's actually 2 in that race. There's Any Harm in Asking, who've not seen for ages. His claim to fame is that he was the only horse to beat Constitution Hill in his point-to-point days, so maybe is very well handicapped there for a mark of 133. But the one in the race that I liked, that I thought was a bit of a big price, and you have to take note why they're coming over, is Watch the Weather for Keith Donoghue and RP Cody. This horse was a winner. He was a winner 2 starts ago at Tipperary when he won in a hat canter that day. He won really easily, beating the field by 9 lengths. He then went to Galway on his next start, ran a good race there over 2 miles 6, finished in 4th place. Now he's coming over here off top weight, and you would have thought that they would have stuck to him running over in Ireland if they didn't think he would have a chance. Obviously he's a smaller trainer, it's going to cost a bit of money to come and run him over here, send him on the ferry, etc. And he would be carrying top weight, giving lots of weight to some of his rivals. So I think they obviously think that they've got a good chance here of running well. Otherwise, they wouldn't come. I'm sure they would have kept him at home in Ireland. Off a mark of 136. Maybe he isn't well handicapped. Maybe he is handicapped to the hilt. But I just like the way he won 2 starts ago at Tipperary. And coming here, Keith Donoghue booked for the ride. A really shrewd jockey booking. I like following Keith. I think he's a good rider. He knows how to land a touch. And maybe Watch the Weather is one to keep an eye on at Chepstow this weekend. I just thought he was a little bit overpriced there at 33 to 1. Like I say, I don't think they would be coming here unless they thought he had a really good chance. So that's my one to watch this weekend. So thanks again to the girls for giving up their time. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Remember to follow us on all the major podcast platforms. We're available on Spotify, Soundcloud, and we're also as well available on YouTube. You can follow us on social media as well, where we're on Twitter and Instagram at In The Saddle Pod. Please remember to gamble responsibly, and we'll be seeing you again soon.